Everyone, but apparently the Obama administration, House Oversight Committee Chair Issa insisting when your ambassador is murdered on September 11th, it probably is terrorism. So why is the White House still defending its story about the YouTube video? We spoke with Congressman Issa right after today's hearing. Did you learn today anything about the security that concerns you?
It does. What concerns us is that the career professionals on the ground were saying, and this is multiple professionals over time, that they didn't have the resources or they were losing the resources they needed to protect their diplomatic missions, and ultimately those warnings were not heeded and resources were cut down to the level of September 11th.
How were the warnings? Were the warnings as blunt as, this is really serious, we're unsafe, and you better send something fast, or is it like things are getting a little bit rugged here and we're getting a little concerned?
Well, some of the diplomatic correspondence from the ambassador himself described a deteriorating situation. It described the continued problems. It described the volatile nature. And these were in actual cables. But more importantly, they were reporting on an almost successful attempt to murder the ambassador, the successful looting of the Tunisian consulate nearby in Benghazi, 234 separate attacks, and I think, oddly enough, Ambassador Kennedy said, well, only 20% of them were in Benghazi. Now, 20% of 234 sounds like an awful lot of violent attacks, and it was.
Al-Qaeda. There was a question put to one of your guests today about Al-Qaeda. Is Al-Qaeda in Libya, and what's the status?
Al-Qaeda is in Libya, and our career professionals said they are getting stronger, and they clearly are a force. We didn't have any ambiguity in the remarks there. And that's part of what these cables tell, many of which have not been released by State Department yet. Ultimately, Al-Qaeda is getting a foothold through allied organizations, some of whom have the cover of government.
Is Al-Qaeda growing, though? Because, I mean, look, we're following everything in the campaign right now, and even 3 or 4 days ago, President Obama, to fundraisers in San Francisco, said that Al-Qaeda is on its heels, meaning that, we're having some really good work in putting them back. The testimony today sparked my interest that they said it's growing.
When you have a organization in a country like Libya, Libyan nationals who are willing to work with and do the bidding of Al-Qaeda, that means they're not on their heels in that country. If ultimately you could eliminate all of the, if you will, global Al-Qaeda people, great, but it's not that kind of organization. It's an organization with real chapters in Egypt, in Libya, in Afghanistan, and in Iraq. And those chapters can operate in coordination or independently as they did in Libya.
Has Congress denied any requests from the State Department for money to beef up security at our embassies?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, we didn't even get into the General Accountability report that showed tremendous amount of waste and a need for a comprehensive review, particularly as to security. And the budget that they were operating on September 11th had a majority of Democrats, 149 Democrats, 147 Republicans, bipartisan by any standards, voted for that funding that they're living on today.
One of the sort of startling piece of information I thought today, and it came out actually last night on the phone call that the State Department had with members of the media, was that the State Department was monitoring this event in Benghazi in real time. They're receiving phone calls that was happening. It started about 9:40 p.m. local time, and the State Department was monitoring it. The State Department said there was no information, no suggestion that there were protests. Now, protests is what the Obama administration, the White House, has said in the beginning that led because of a video. So a completely different story. You agree?
Absolutely. That's one of the sad parts about this is you had a real terrorist attack. All the signs were clear, and now with a lot of finger pointing, ultimately the administration is still trying to cling to that precious week of implying that things are okay. It was just an incited video from somebody in Los Angeles, and nothing could be further from the truth.
I don't get it, though. What did they get out of pushing this story that even from the beginning seemed peculiar? 9/11. I mean, we've all lived through 9/11. It's our embassy. It's it's an attack. It seems. I mean, it has all the earmarks of terrorism. There was no information, even our State Department monitoring it, that there was a protest about a video. Why would the White House, in the early days, including Ambassador Rice, why would they push that story?
Well, Greta, it wasn't necessarily the early days. It was just a whole week that they pushed this wrong story, and we were baffled. The only explanation that we've heard from people is, in fact, that they were hoping to deflect the fact that conditions are bad. Conditions were so bad in Libya that they'd upped the hazardous pay to our foreign service officers all the time. They were reducing the appearance of security. They were eliminating the size of convoys. They were doing everything to try to make it look like we were peaceful. Well, they were paying more because the risk was high.
Are you suspicious that it's incompetence in terms of getting at it, or misinformation and confusion, or do you think it's a cover-up?
Greta, I'm concerned for both. If it's a cover-up, then it's bad policy and bad politics coming right out of the Oval Office. If, on the other hand, it's incompetence, then it's bad leadership over 4 years or more, something that President Bush prided himself on. Love President Bush or not, he focused, and Vice President Cheney focused on improving our security footprint for our men and women here and around the world. That's important. We need to maintain that competence. I hope we can turn it around that way. I hope it's not actually politics with American lives.
Which do you think more, confusion and misinformation, or the possibility of cover-up?
I think everyone on the dais, including my Democratic colleagues, found it pretty hard to believe that confusion lasted a week. Some tried to defend it, some stayed away from it. I believe it couldn't have lasted 7 days the way the administration would have you believe.
Congressman, thank you, sir.